All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're cracking open the case files on some of the microbial world's most brilliant and, downright devious operatives. We're going to uncover the incredibly sophisticated strategies that pathogenic bacteria use to outsmart our own bodies. You always hear that bacteria are these simple, single-celled things. And it makes you wonder, right? How can something that sounds so basic cause such complex, devastating diseases in a creature as advanced as a human? Well, here's the thing. That whole idea is just wrong. They aren't simple at all. When it comes to surviving and invading a host, these microbes are nothing short of master strategists. They use tactics that are precise, incredibly efficient, and scarily effective. So here's what's on the docket today. We're going to start with their secret weapons, and then we'll get into the profiles of our most wanted. We've got the system crasher, a couple of cellular saboteurs, the master of disguise, and this really weird one, the granule builder. Then we'll zoom out and look at the big picture. This constant evolutionary arms race. All right, first up, the microbial arsenal. And we're not just talking about causing a little infection here. We're talking about deploying highly specialized weapons, weapons designed to take down a system that is literally millions of times bigger than they are. So, let's meet our first culprit, Neisseria meningitis. This bacterium is, well, it's famous for taking a normal infection and just escalating it into a total, full-blown systemic crisis. It is a true system crasher. And its signature crime? It's a condition called Waterhouse-Friedrichsen syndrome. And trust me, this isn't just a bad infection. It is a catastrophic multi-system failure. We're talking massive internal bleeding, especially in the adrenal glands, and just overwhelming septic shock. So how in the world does it do it? Its weapon of choice is something called an endotoxin. And the best way to think about it is like a shock and awe campaign. It doesn't just go after one little target, it's designed to create absolute, widespread chaos to completely overwhelm the body's defenses. And the way this works is a terrifyingly effective domino effect. First, the bacteria get in and release their endotoxin. This flips a switch that triggers a cytokine storm. Now, what that means is the immune system goes into such an insane overdrive that it just floods the body with inflammatory signals and ends up doing way more harm than good. This out-of-control response is what leads directly to systemic shock and organ failure. It's why this bacterium can be so incredibly lethal so fast. Okay, next up we're looking at two saboteurs. These guys don't go for the big system-wide crash. No, they use highly specialized toxins for precision strikes, right at the cellular level. And we've got two very different but equally nasty methods here. On one side, you have the pertussis toxin, which acts like a signal jammer. It messes up all the communication inside our cells. And on the other side, you've got the diphtheria toxin, which is basically a factory stopper. It just brings the cell's entire production line to a grinding halt. So let's look at our first suspect. This toxin comes from Bordetella pertussis, the bug that causes whooping cough. It performs this very specific chemical tweak called ADP ribosylation. The easiest way to picture it is like shoving a piece of gum into a lock. It sticks this molecule onto these key cellular messengers called G proteins, and that jams them up, crippling the cell's ability to talk to its neighbors. And, crucially, it disrupts the very immune response that's supposed to clear the infection. Now, our second suspect, diphtheria toxin from Corynebacterium diphtheria, this one is even more direct, if you can believe it. It goes after something called elongation factor 2, or EF2, which is absolutely critical for building proteins. It uses that same gum-in-the-lock trick, ADP ribosylation, to shut down the cell's entire protein assembly line. No proteins, no life. The cell just dies. It's this super precise, deadly mechanism that causes all the tissue death you see in diphtheria. Okay, our next case file. This one is a totally different kind of strategist. This bacterium doesn't really rely on overwhelming force or even cellular sabotage. Its main skill is evasion. So let's meet Neisseria gonorrhea, the master of disguise. Its whole strategy is honestly brilliant in its simplicity. If you can't be seen, you can't be caught. This bacterium has figured out a way to constantly change what it looks like on the outside, which makes it a constantly moving target for our immune system. So, here's how it's supposed to work. When the immune system first sees the bacterium, it learns to recognize specific proteins on its surface, these little structures called pillin proteins. It starts making antibodies specifically to target those proteins and wipe out the infection.
But, and here's the crazy part, just as the immune system is getting its attack ready, the bacterium shuffles its genes around and starts making a totally new, different set of pilin proteins. All of a sudden, those antibodies that the immune system worked so hard to make, they're completely useless. The bacterium is wearing a new disguise. We call this process antigenic variation.
So what this all means is that by constantly rearranging its genes to change those pillin proteins, Neisseria gonorrhea just keeps dodging the immune system. This is exactly why it can cause these chronic, persistent infections that are so notoriously hard for our bodies and even our medicines to get rid of. It's always one step ahead.
And for our final case file, we have what is maybe the most unique strategy architecturally speaking. We're looking at actinomyces, a bacterium that doesn't just invade, it builds.
Yeah, its main tactic is to build defensive fortresses right inside our own tissues. In the chronic infection it causes, actinomycosis, the bacteria form these visible clumps called sulfur granules. And these aren't just random piles of bacteria, they are highly organized structures made of the bacteria themselves, all tangled up with material from our own body's inflammatory response.
And let's be super clear about what these things are. They're called sulfur granules just because they look yellowish, but there is zero actual sulfur in them. What they really are is these dense mats of tangled bacteria, all interwoven with our own immune cells. These granules act like a physical shield, protecting the bacteria inside from both antibiotics and our immune system, letting the infection just smolder for months or even years. They're the unique, unmistakable calling card of actinomyces israeli.
So as we've seen, from these massive system-wide shot campaigns to tiny molecular sabotage and clever disguises, these bacteria have evolved an absolutely incredible range of strategies. And it all brings us to the main point. This is all part of a relentless, ongoing evolutionary arms race between pathogens and us, their hosts. So let's do a quick recap of our rogues gallery. We had Neisseria meningitidis, the system crasher with its endotoxin overload. We uncovered the cellular saboteurs, Corynebacterium diphtheria, the protein factory stopper, and Bordetella pertussis, the cell signal jammer. We tracked the master of disguise, Neisseria gonorrhea with its constantly changing disguises. And finally, we looked at actinomyces, the strange builder of defensive granules. Every single one of them is a master of its own devious craft. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty important question. For every defense we come up with, vaccines, antibiotics, you name it, these microbial masterminds are constantly working to evolve new offenses. It really makes you wonder, in this constant arms race, what new, ingenious weapons will they evolve next?